Welcome to Snacks Weekly on Data Science. This podcast is all about making data science and machine learning knowledge accessible and less intimidating. Today, we are going to talk about metrics. This topic is based on a tech blog with the title Measuring Technical Debt to Avoid the Boiling Frog Syndrome, written by the engineering team from Booking.com. You can find the blog link in this episode's description. Throughout this episode, we will dissect the topic from both business and data science angles. Now let's dive in. On the business side, let's take a look at the problem to be solved. Booking.com is a popular online travel agency that allows customers to book accommodations, flights, rental cars, and other travel-related services. It is a large, well-known company in the travel industry. Developing and maintaining a large-scale travel online platform like Booking.com's require a significant amount of software engineering effort. The platform needs to be able to handle high-volume traffic, provide a seamless user experience, integrate with various travel suppliers, and provide complex transactions securely and effectively. To achieve this, Booking.com employs a team of software engineers who are responsible for designing, developing, testing, and deploying the software that powers this platform. However, as with any software project, the development process at Booking.com can accumulate technical debt over time. Technical debt refers to the implied cost of future rework required when choosing an easy but limited solution, instead of a better approach that could take more time. It is a common issue in software engineering, and tech debt can occur due to various reasons, such as tight deadlines, changing requirements, or a lack of proper documentation and testing. Technical debt is an important problem for Booking.com to address because it can have significant implications for the company's operations and growth. If this is left unchecked, technical debt can lead to several issues. One possible issue is to reduce agility. As technical debt accumulates, the code base becomes increasingly complex and difficult to modify, making it harder for the company to adapt to changing market conditions and customer demands. The second possible issue is that the performance and scalability would suffer. Technical debt can introduce inefficiencies and bottlenecks in the software, and this can impact the platform's performance and ability to scale as the business grows. The third possible issue is that it would increase maintenance cost. Developers may spend more time understanding and working around the legacy code, and this would lead to higher maintenance cost and slower development cycles. By addressing technical debt proactively, the company could ensure that its software system remain maintainable, scalable, and adaptable to the changing business needs. And this allows the company to continue provide a high-quality online experience to its customers, stay competitive in the travel industry, and support its ongoing growth and innovation efforts. Now that we've understood the business problem to solve, let's shift gear and dive into the measurement side to see what metrics the team proposes could help with solving the problem. There are more than 9 metrics the team proposed to track, and I roughly grouped them into the following 3 categories. For the first category, these metrics are qualitative and intuitive. One is called WTF per minute, and the other one is called number of code smells. Let's take a look at the first metric. There are different ways people can interpret what does WTF mean. In my opinion, the most fitting explanation in this context would be works that frustrate. So WTF. The idea behind this metric is to quantify the frequency at which developers encounter frustrating or confusing aspects of the codebase while working on it. A high WTF per minute rate could indicate the presence of significant technical debt, poor code quality, lack of documentation, or a codebase that is difficult to understand and maintain. For example, if a developer frequently has to pause and say WTF, that is because they encounter poorly written, undocumented, or overly complex code. That would contribute to a higher WTF per minute score. The second metric in this category is called number of code smells, refers to the presence of certain patterns or characteristics in the codebase that may indicate potential problems that needs improvement. Code smells are not necessarily bugs or errors, but rather potential indicators of deeper issues or violation of good coding practices. Some examples including having the same code repeated in multiple places, which makes maintenance and updates more difficult. Or it could be some methods or functions that are too long and have too many things, making them harder to understand and maintain. Both the above metrics, WTF per minute and number of code smells, are intuitive in a way that it's easy to understand how technical debt may look like. But it is important for us to know that identifying these metrics is a very subjective process and often relies on the experience and the judgment of the developers, as well as the coding standard and best practices followed by the organization. So they are relatively qualitative and intuitive, but hard to be measured objectively. The second category of metrics are more quantitative and objective. This set of metrics includes things like automated test coverage and documentation coverage. Automated test coverage refers to the percentage of the codebase that is covered by automated test. It could be either a unit test, integration test, or end-to-end test. A higher test coverage percentage generally indicates that a larger proportion of the codebase has been tested automatically, and this can help with catching bugs and regressions early in the development process. Documentation coverage refers to the extent to which the codebase is accomplished by clear and comprehensive documentation. This includes code comments, API documentation, architecture diagrams, and user guides. A higher documentation coverage percentage usually indicates that a larger portion of the codebase is well documented, making this easier for developers to understand and maintain the code. Both the automated test coverage and documentation coverage are more quantitative metrics, that can be measured and tracked over time using various tools and practices. On the other side, it's important to note that while high coverage percentages are generally desirable, the quality of the tests and the documentation is also crucial. And these metrics should not be gamed or prioritized over other important aspects of the software developments. The last but not the least category of metrics is related to the effort spent or expected effort to be spent by the engineers. These metrics measure the effort spent on deprecated components, unplanned work, defects identified by end users, or in general, estimated efforts to address technical debt. While they are good indicators of the actual effort spent on technical debts, they require close monitoring to ensure accurate predictions or recordings. And also, these metrics are a little bit lagging indicator and require the team's effort to make good tracking of these numbers. One additional thing to note is that achieving zero technical debt is neither feasible nor ideal for the business. There may always be high priority or urgent works needed to deliver features quickly to meet the pressing business needs. So it is important to keep these metrics in mind and with the best practice to make technical debts visible and establishing healthy indicators to monitor and take corrective actions at early stage. Now that we've discussed both the business problems and all the metrics to solve this, let's wrap it up. In this episode, we discussed what technical debt is in software engineering and its associated risks. We also talked about a few metrics to measure the status of technical debt and ways to help companies quantify their progress toward better software engineering. If you like the content of this episode, please subscribe to the channel, give me a 5-star review, and leave a comment. Your feedback is very appreciated, and I'll see you next week.